Came to order at 6 o'clock, if we could. I have to share with you, I was on I-75 today, coming north. And if anybody knows anything about what happened on I-75, a tractor trailer hit an overpass and almost took the overpass out. And the north lanes have been closed all day. So I got off at Webster, and it took me 5 hours to get home from Webster, which should be a 2-hour trip. It's a mess.
Thanks for making it.
Yeah, I just made it too. I just made it.
Was it happened before, and I used to have to deal with that when I was an officer. Sometimes drivers misjudge the height of their load and fail to when they fail to do that, that's what happens.
Yeah, and probably not by much either.
Yeah, but still, it makes a difference.
We should have a big packet of materials. We're going to review the agenda, but I just wanted to give a little background first as well. And Gina Master DeCasa wasn't able to make it here this evening, and this would have been, I believe, her final meeting as chair. And Brittany, her term expired this past month.
That's too bad.
So she will likely reapply, I suspect, and we certainly welcome her back at that time, but her term expired last month, so I've been asked to chair this meeting, and I'm happy to do so. To prepare for this meeting, it's been a while since I've chaired this meeting, I took a look at all the old minutes and looked for comments and things that might not have been completed yet. Sheila sent out a note to us and had a number of items on there, took a look at that, and we've incorporated a number of those in here. Also reviewed the calendar and tried to identify topics for March and a couple of others yet this spring. So we can't do everything in one evening, obviously, but the intent of this agenda is to catch us up on some things, like some internal affairs reports, the annual report, quarterly report, all those kind of things need to be done. So I'm going to, with your patience, get us through this. Please don't be offended if I seem to cut somebody off a little bit, but I'm going to try to keep us paced here so that we can get through all this material. So if you'll take a look at the agenda, and I'll accept a motion to approve.
Okay. Hi, this is Bob Cohen. I just want you to know I'm on Zoom, and I'm using the I-75 excuse to be late. I didn't know about the excuse when I started, but it's a great one. So I'm using that one, but I'll be there in 5 minutes, but I am listening in since 6 o'clock.
Thanks, Bob. It's good to have you.
Move to accept it.
Yeah.
Moved?
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Agenda is passed. The minutes are attached for your review as well. We sent those just the other day from January 25th. Comments about the minutes?
I have one question. So I offered to be on the bylaws committee. I see that we're going to be talking about it again. Or
You're on the bylaws committee.
which?
You and I are on the bylaws committee.
Yeah, I don't think we met.
Yes, that was a mistake.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So should that be still in there, business discussion on D1, or we just leave it that way?
It'll be updated,
Okay, thank you. She knows how to get to the gist with me.
Okay. Any other comments? Is there a move to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, minutes are approved as well. Part of what we have done is move public comment up to this location in the agenda. That's something that was suggested by the council, so that if people didn't want to sit through the entire business portion of the meeting and they really wanted to share some thoughts, now would be a good time to do that. And so I'll open it up for any public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment?
And just for clarity, this is public comment for things not on the agenda, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great.
So my name is Danielle Chances. I'm a community organizer locally here in Gainesville. And on Friday, Chief Lonnie Scott made the decision to return the K-9 unit to normal duty and then issued the press release on Monday, this past Monday. The K-9 unit has been embroiled in controversy ever since Terrell Bradley was brutally and viciously mauled by GPD K-9 in July of 2022. There was a special city commission meeting in November of 2022 to discuss the K-9 unit. And while the K-9 unit was on patrol because the racist supervisor who was accused of being a white supremacist resigned finally after public pressure. There have been several resignations, including from K-9 officer Joshua Muir, whose K-9 was actually responsible for the mauling of Terrell Bradley, and in his resignation he cited that Chief Lonnie Scott was not supportive of him. The community overwhelmingly spoke out against the K-9 unit, and I would urge the Police Advisory Council to recommend, because in the press release that was sent out on Monday, Lonnie Scott wrote that they are planning to hire more officers for the K-9 unit, and there were 5 candidates ready to test, and I believe they said in March bring them onto the unit. I would strongly advise against that. Not a single issue that was brought up at the community meeting back in November has been addressed. There's serious problems with the culture of the K-9 unit, which is why former K-9 officer Ed Ratliff is actually currently suing the city because of the racism he endured in the unit. And there's a serious culture problem, and I don't believe that a unit that's been embroiled in so much controversy should be bringing on more officers to the unit to then act in a way that is not beneficial to the community without any of the issues that were brought forth from the community being addressed. We haven't heard from the chief of police of any policy changes he plans to make. In fact, when he did the press conference in regards to Terrell Bradley's incident, when he cleared GPD of any wrongdoing, he said that he did not plan to make any policy changes and then took his word back in the November meeting. But we have it on recording that he did actually say that. We haven't had any community engagement, and again, I just think that there's 2 officers there. It should remain 2 officers. If you want to use the 2 officers are already there, but the Police Advisory Council should make a recommendation, as you all can, to the police department that until they address some of the issues with the K-9 unit, the culture issues at GPD and within the unit, and make some policy changes that they not bring in any more officers to that unit, because there are some really serious issues. This advisory council is about creating community trust, and as it stands, the community does not trust the police, and especially not the K-9 unit.
Thank you. Other public comment? Please.
I'm Donald Shepard, People's Representative, and I'm also an ex-police officer. And I am a highly trained officer. I've been trained in the K-9 unit and the horse division, the motorcycle division, the forensic division. I could go on and on, but we have, of course, free time. So, my comment to what the lady had said, and it has been said prior, as a trained officer in that field, that dog was acting on the command of the officer. And anybody that knows of the position in which was taking place, the officer let the dog go after him. That was the command to the dog. Anybody who knows that type command knows that that dog's duty is to take that guy down and hold him there till he gets him there. Well, the mauling, I don't know how that took place, but I will find out. But this is something that we don't need to take out our officers or take out our K-9 division because of incidents like this. This needs to be a training session that takes place before a court orders this officer or that dog, which is an officer, to be taken from its duty. And that young man had ran from the scene when he was told several times to stop. He did not. He just kept going. So he's in the fault of that transaction of being mauled, because that dog is trained to do that. And everybody that knows a dog or an officer knows that that's what takes place in that type scene. And for them to make more of this is not right. This here is a racial issue, and it needs to be stomped on right now, because God made all of us, and we're all equal to mistakes. So that's my comment about that. Let's see here. SWAT teams. Our SWAT team is, I think, right to the letter, professionally trained, and is doing a great job. The neighborhood police investigating training, where is that? We haven't gotten a training center. That I'm asking for. I'm asking for us to be given the funding and a training center for our officers and our canine units to be trained together, not individually, but together, so that the first trainer, sir,
Your time has expired.
okay, the first trainer and the second trainer are trained together. So I'll stop there, sir, as your,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
and
Appreciate
I'd
it.
like to talk again.
Okay. Are there other public comments? Sir? Okay, thank you. We're going to move into some business. The first is that we have to select a new PAC chairperson for 23-24, and I will open up the floor for nominations. Bob?
I nominate you. You're very organized. You from the old pack, and you'll help make this transition even better by, because you served for so many years.
Second.
Yeah, but by being able to give a continuity. Plus, when you presented to the city commission, things actually happened. For example, your presentation on the body cams and webcams made it happen. You know, it was our recommendation. So I think this year with so many police issues hot, you'd be our best chair. So
I accept the nomination.
thank you.
Are there other nominations for chair?
I like the nomination of Norb. With a lot of these issues being so close to me, I would like to put myself in there as well. These issues are issues that are, quite frankly, generational. The violence, a lot of the violence that we're seeing is young black males. And so I feel like I can relate very closely to some of the issues that are going on. But I like you as well as a nomination. So I just wanted to put myself in that as well.
And I don't believe we need a second. Okay, other nominations for chair? What would be the wish of the council? Would you like to do this voice vote or otherwise?
Let me make a suggestion, if I might. We have two fantastic candidates. I didn't know if you wanted to do that again. Two really good candidates. And I would say, since we have to do a vice chair too, one of you be chair, one of you be vice chair. And in that way, both of you have the authority of an officer of the council to go in front of the commission, to say in the community that both of you be there. And you can even alternate chairing meetings at times. That way. So I would say the way to do it, because we have such good, I hate it like when two really good people run against each other for office.
I think Sheila has it right.
Okay.
Fareed, I think that you speak up more now that you're not chair. Norb, when he came in, I thought was too straight for me.
Listen,
But,
we have it's an election. I'm fine with that. Whatever.
okay, I just want
No,
to
there's-
say,
there's-
I feel like when you're chair, you
Would you like to do this
you
by
wouldn't
voice
speak
vote?
up.
Are you comfortable with voice vote?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of Norm Dunkel as chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor of Fareed, please say aye.
As,
As chair.
Chair.
As chair.
I thought you just said you as chair.
Well,
You're doing
yeah.
nominations
Yeah.
now. Two candidates.
Oh, okay, well, we'll go any further. Okay. We'll close that part then and go to vice chair. Nominations for vice chair.
Fareed.
Okay. Free, did you accept that nomination? Other nominations for vice chair? Okay. All those in favor of Fareed as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? That's unanimous. Congratulations. Okay, we have the rules of procedure, and you were sent a copy of that. And what I tried to do is go over the former one and look at the one that you have, and just identify to you the adjustments that the council made to this. So if you'll look at your copy, under Article 2 membership, quorum shall consist of 6, and that was 4 formally, so it's going to be 6 regular. Voting in person, so in person was added. And then if you go to election of officers, under Article 3, number 4, election of officers, that is being done in February instead of October. And I believe, Deborah, that the last sentence of that election of officers, the school council member may not serve as an officer, we were going to strike that.
We don't have to.
Right. Under meetings, under regular meetings, first line, we're going to meet on the 4th Wednesday instead of the 3rd Wednesday. And we're meeting at 6 o'clock instead of 6:30. And we will try to be complete with the agenda by 8 p.m. instead of 10:30 p.m. Thank you very much. And then under voting, voting shall be by voice vote. No, I'm sorry, by roll call. It was, no, I'm sorry, by voice vote. It was roll call. Then I think we're striking the roll call sentence, and in all cases, the chair shall vote last. I think we're striking that as well, if I recall. And then the last sentence that we have there, a record of the vote shall be kept as a part of the minutes. And then we added a sentence that said roll call can be requested by members.
Are we required to keep the vote?
The vote as far as
Are we
the
required to
number,
keep a record of the vote?
not who, but the number, whether it was unanimous or not. I think if it's not unanimous, we would say, you know, like 10 to 2,
Okay.
but not by individual.
Okay. But we don't need to keep record like the minutes.
Like I did, you see in the minutes, you see where you did motion the first, and then it was like, and then named this
Okay.
at the end.
Okay, and then under order of business, requests to address the council, that's public comment. We just changed the wording on that. And then on the last page, we removed the whole article on legislative matters because that's not pertinent to us. And then under parliamentary procedure, this I think still remains as a question. Would we like to keep parliamentary procedure for this council as a way to run the meetings?
I think so. I think we move slowly with it.
Okay.
I'll make a suggestion. What the city has done, and I did when I was on the plan board, is instead of following Robert's rules, which can really mess things up, we adopted bylaws that we are guided by Robert's rules. Because there's a whole history of why that is there, but Robert's rules can be a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
And so guided by means of, we won't get caught up on parliamentary, unlimited points of order kind of thing.
So above the wording in here, it says, shall act as a guide for the administration
Oh.
of council meetings. Would that suffice?
Oh, that's it? That's it? I'm sorry about that. I missed the last meeting, so I'm
No, that's
sorry.
okay, I just noticed that myself, so.
Okay.
So are we comfortable keeping that in there then?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, let's see, amendment to council rules. These rules may be amended by a favorable vote of, I believe it's 7. Am I not mistaken there? Favorable vote, just a second. Is it majority plus 1?
Which actually.
It was 5.
It should actually be percentage versus, because we dealt with, lost their issues, where we've been down as far as 2 or 3 members at a time. So it should be, what, 60%?
So 60%?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because we've had members resign 2 at a time. And now we're currently down 1. This one.
Okay. And we'll calculate that if we ever get to that point.
Are we allowed to vote via Zoom?
As long as you've got in-person quorum, yes.
So Zoom vote will count as well. There was a time when it didn't count.
Yeah, I could stay home.
Okay. Those are,
Up 75 again.
those are all the changes I think that the council voiced. Are there any other adjustments? Okay, we would need a motion to approve for adoption.
Motion approved.
It's been, well, that's not for us. No, for, motion, is there a second?
A second.
A second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving for adoption the rules of procedure, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay, the bylaws update. Last time we met, Sheila and Brittany and I volunteered to work on the bylaws. Brittany was not able to call us together, obviously, so we need a third person for the bylaws subcommittee.
I'll vote for
Maurice? If you want to share that.
Sure.
Okay. Marie will share that. Thank you. We look forward to you getting us together. Thank you. Okay, you have a copy of the annual report that Gina Master de Casa presented, and I'm looking for approval to submit and present this to the City Commission.
I would like to have a, not rebuttal, but I would like to add on to it. We had much more, this seems so mild. I mean, we had 50 people show up after Terrell Bradley was mauled. That's not reflected. This just seems like, this just addresses the stuff that was presented to us by the police department, not other things we talked about.
Other thoughts?
And also, we didn't meet in any various neighborhoods. We found out we can't do that, so that's not even, we didn't meet in November or December, which meant some of the stuff I've been pushing for us to do has been pushed back to March and May. And we invite members of the Gainesville City Commission. I think that they have a subcommittee on public safety. One of them should be attending. I put that in the
You did,
email.
yeah.
So I think this is like, this is not why I come.
Well, I'll need to ask, go ahead.
So Cassie, disregard.
Other comments?
Part of this issue, in reference to meeting in the communities, one of the things that came up before is the fact that when we do so, that these meetings have to be recorded.
Right, so that shouldn't be in here then, because we're not meeting in the communities.
No, that's a fair critique.
And I think, well, just to go a little further with that, venues to meet in the different neighborhoods. In terms of recording, I do know that, because I've checked into it informally, that some area churches that I'm affiliated with have the ability to, and the means to record the meetings if we choose that particular location. But that would have to be decided by the council as to when and where, and what I can do is, if it's okay, is to get a list of those venues that have the means to record the meetings, which has to be done, we already know, and then bring that back to the council.
It's a nice idea.
Well, one of the things is their equipment has to be compatible with whatever IT requirements.
Yeah.
So it's more than just capturing it, but it has to be uploadable for IT to put onto the
They'd have
city
to have a
archive.
conversation to see if that is compatible or not.
Right, something that I can also look into, and then again, get back with the council about that to see.
I think Sheila's critique of not having the K-9, since it was such a divisive issue, and it was such a large-scale issue, I do believe that that should be in there. That's a fair enough critique.
Okay.
And regardless of how any of us feel about it, we don't want to overlook it.
Right.
I want to agree also, since we are not a true review board, but instead have the task of helping to fix the police-community relationship, then that powerful of a showing by the community is absolutely relevant to our function.
I agree, because rightfully so, they had the right to come and express their views, and that's something that no matter how we may agree as a council, that there should always be a matter of record as we go forward. And,
I don't think there's anything wrong with us holding off on this for another month. And if you're comfortable, I will talk to Gina and have her amend this, or adjust it, if you will, to talk both about the community meetings piece, as well as the meeting with regard to K-9 unit turnaround.
I also would like for this to be that we request that a city commissioner representing the subcommittee of public safety come to every meeting instead of they want to email us. I would like for us to ask them to come.
I'm only hesitant, Sheila, because, we report to the city commission. And so we're working on behalf of the city commission. So I'm not sure why they would have to have somebody in attendance at the council meeting unless they chose to be here.
I think we should request if they could have one. I think that should be a request. I don't work for them,
Is
I
that
work
it?
for the people in the community.
And how does that bear onto this report?
Because it says to email, hey, if you have any, have we ever gotten an email from them? Ms. Holt, from the city commission asking about our business?
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
Anyway, the city commission does not go through me, they go through the city manager, and the city manager to chief Scott.
I doubt any of them have had the time.
Other thoughts on that from council?
I think maybe it's something we should vote on. It could be helpful.
Should that be in this annual report, or should that be a separate business item?
I find this, email us if you want to get involved, takes up a whole paragraph to be very wishy-washy. I do meet individually with the city commissioners, so.
Maybe we can ask for a request, or maybe we can request to get a, update from the public safety committee versus requiring them to be here at every meeting. Maybe we can do a, quarterly update from the public safety committee to spin us up on the things that they're working on, as well as what we're discussing.
Yeah, I don't think the warning has to be required. I think it
No, it
should
doesn't.
I like
be, it would help us if they came.
Would a quarterly report help?
No, I don't want to read anything else. I want them to be here. I want to ask Commissioner Duncan Walker why she hasn't had the meeting, follow-up community meeting about the K-9 unit.
But
Well-
that doesn't mean that we'll get that particular commissioner.
Right.
Right?
It's
I like
not
the idea.
important, it's not
At
important
least
enough to
requesting
me.
a quarterly report.
Some type of quarterly information to give us an idea of what they're discussing.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, if you look at our mission, it should actually somewhat be in line with the mission of the public safety.
Would you be comfortable if we added that to the March meeting and just took that up as a council specifically? I don't want to bury it in a report, I'd rather have it as an agenda
That
item.
way we can come up with
Yeah.
the appropriate language.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to invite them to come.
Okay. All right, I will talk to Gina, and you will see this back. Hopefully Gina will present it. Okay, our annual report for 2022, 2023 would be from, is it October
22.
of 22 through September of 23. Are there any ideas or things you'd like to see included in that report since from October 22 through current?
Sheila, wouldn't the K-9 thing be sufficient for the 2022-23 report? Since that was in November, that would fall under the
Okay.
October.
Sure.
Okay. That makes sense. Anything else? Now I'll go through the minutes. What I tend to do is I just kind of do a running draft. And I just pick things up after every meeting and put them in there, and then at the end of the year, it's real easy to finish it off. Okay, thank you. We also have to submit quarterly reports. So the quarterly report, October, November, and December. So the K-9 would certainly be within that quarterly report.
And since we didn't meet in November and December,
Be October. I'm happy to write that report. Does that have to come to the commission to be? It does. I'll bring that back to you next month for your approval. It probably will not be a lengthy report. It's only gonna cover a little bit.
can you send that on email? Can we get that on email or no? Before,
As a topic of discussion, for
Yeah.
y'all to review and make, you'll have the draft first reading of it at
That-
the meeting, and then at the second meeting, you'll be able to adopt it to go before the city commission.
okay.
Future calendar items. Several of these, Sheila, are from your list specifically. The SWAT team and the K-9 unit, the SWAT team, we're setting up for March. And I understand that Executive Lieutenant West, I believe, is now overseeing that.
Yes.
And Captain Ferreira is the supervisor then as well. So they would both be available in March to be able to speak to the SWAT team and to present on the SWAT team. The K-9 unit would be set aside for May, and we're doing that because there's still a conversation with the City Commission that needs to take place. And we need the City Commission to provide any direction, first of all, before we can have a formal report back on the K-9 unit and whether there is any change to policy, procedure, anything like that. So we can't even really talk about it much until then.
So this Tuesday at 1 o'clock, there's a city commission meeting about it, but what's been presented in the newspaper and what citizens or community people, they are concerned that there's going to be hiring, so that will happen before May. So then we can't advise anything.
Well, I believe, and correct me if I'm not mistaken, that this council did not take a position on disbanding the K-9 unit.
Some
We were
of
very clear on
us
that.
had,
Well, there was a minority
opinions.
vote that,
Right.
yes, there were a couple of you that felt that way, but the majority of the council did not feel that way.
but we still were told at that previous city commission meeting that there would be talk about procedures and stuff. We haven't had that discussion. We haven't been given that information.
Right, because that's supposed to be with the city commission.
I think what you want to do is make a recommendation.
No, I want to hear if there's been any changes in policy or procedures. I mean, if we're an advisory committee, how can we advise when we don't get any information about what's going on? That's why I write those long emails.
Right, and we're gonna get the information in May. We're setting up the agenda so that we have dedicated time to talk about the K-9 unit, hear reports, hear any policy adjustments, anything like that in May.
Let me ask, wondering if maybe we could hear from the chief about, because it is a community concern. I mean, K-9 units, when they work well, protect everyone. And when they don't work well, there's a bad history of K-9 units not working well. So since it is of concern to the community, I wonder if the chief might be able to just fill us in on what he's doing to improve the unit. If that's appropriate.
How does the council feel? Because again, Executive Lieutenant West is not here.
Yeah,
He can't be here this week.
yeah,
So, and we wanted him present.
got
To
it,
be
yeah, I
honest, to
got it.
speak to
yeah.
that. That's the only issue why we're delaying this a little bit as well,
I understand.
because he's brand new to that.
Yeah, so maybe it has to wait.
Yeah.
We still have council comments at the end where members can ask questions of Chief Scott in concerns to the K-9.
Yeah, I'm just trying to set up a schedule for the spring that takes into account, Sheila, your several items and a lot of things that we need to get through.
Her concern is that things will transpire before we have the opportunity to actually speak on it as a council. Is that what you're communicating?
Yeah.
So I like what Bob said about asking Chief Scott. It's just, I think that it would be necessary during tonight's council comments that you and anyone else that has concerns can ask those questions.
Okay.
What are we doing in April? Or are we taking that month off too?
No, there was something,
Just calling it what topics you would like discussed at the very next meeting.
Well, I sent a ton of
But
recommendations.
we have your Sheila, but we need the other council's feedback as well as this council has to go through training. Because we need a regular set of training sessions for this council. When I first started on the council, every month, every other month, we had a dedicated training session. So I'd like to see the organizational structure of GPD. I'd like to see who the leadership is. You know, there's a lot of things that were included in training that we haven't had here that I think would be valuable. So we need to incorporate those in as well. And I need a little bit of time to sit back and look at all of those things to try to craft out a schedule for the council and present that to you so that you see what we have going on.
And in addition, well, listen to that, some things have happened. Just very recently, the K-9 unit has been reinstated. The city commission has not come back to discuss the policies and so forth. And I know this is only the almost the end of February, but it seems to me that because of these recent changes with the A9 unit and the fact that the city commission as a whole has not regrouped to discuss or make public what discussion was when they had that big meeting, I think I think we need that extra time that's indicated on this agenda until May to see what's going to happen with the unit being reinstated and hearing from what's the officer's name again?
West.
Yeah, hearing from him, and also seeing what direction the commission is going to move in as far as the K-9 unit being reinstated and how that's going to affect not only us as an advisory council, but also affect the community at large. So looking at the agenda, K-9 unit May meeting, I just think that would give enough time to see exactly what's what from GPD and what's what from the city commission.
Okay. Some discussion notes. Just a couple of notes here. The neighborhood policing initiative training has been completed, is my understanding, is that was held every month. And a number of people attended those, and toward the last couple of months, not so many. So at this point, I believe that has been completed. Am I mistaken on that, or? Yes? Okay, that's correct then.
Yes, it has been completed. We are not doing any more training sessions for 2023, which we did for 12 months.
Thank you.
Good, I didn't really want to go to that. I felt like I have to.
One less obligation.
I know, right? I wanted them to do it on a Saturday when I wasn't working.
We can reopen it. Okay, I'm going to backtrack for a moment, and I'm going to reopen public comment. Because there was a question at the very beginning whether the public comment was for non-agenda items, and I said yes at that time. Well, we also need public comment for agenda items, if that's okay. And Danielle Chances, is that correct?
Yes.
Had comment regarding an agenda item.
Thank you. So I just submitted a public comment card specific to the K-9 unit discussion being moved to May. I don't think that you all should wait that long. Terrell Bradley was mauled in July of this year, so from July to May is what, 10 months? This is why people don't like bureaucracies. Things get caught up in red tape. GPD gave a 30-minute presentation at the K-9 meeting in November. You guys are welcome to do public records requests to them at any time. They need to give them to you. So I don't really understand what the holdup is in having a discussion. You all have much more power than the community does in building the relationships. Also, I've heard a lot of discussion about the reason that you guys need to wait to do certain items is you need to train people and talk to GPD and hear about their structure, but I haven't heard anything about what you're doing to engage the community. It says in the mission statement that you all just adopted that like the purpose of this police advisory council is to act in advisory capacity to the police department by bringing attention and feedback from the community concerning public safety. So if you all are so concerned with getting to know GPD, I would hope that you're just as concerned with getting to know the community, especially those who are directly impacted by GPD, those who are in the neighborhoods that are highly policed and such. But again, back specifically to the K-9 unit, I would like to ask a question if it's appropriate. It's fine if it takes up some of my time, but what information specifically are you all waiting on to be able to discuss that it has to be pushed back till May?
Our understanding is that the city commission still has an opportunity to get together and have a conversation about the K-9 unit. That they may develop a decision, a recommendation, whatever that might be. We can certainly look at that. This council has already taken the position that I mentioned just a little bit ago. So we've already done that. And we've looked at the internal affairs report as well.
Well, so I would just say that this is a new council. You just actually said that yourself. There are new people here, so maybe it should be up for another discussion if that's the desire of other people here. But also that there are other pending items, especially the fact that the K-9 supervisor resigned since you all had that discussion last. The K-9 unit is down to 2 people. It was just reinstated. There are other things that are happening. So while you all wait 5 months to have a discussion, things are moving. GPD is making decisions about the K-9 unit, and you don't necessarily need, in my eyes, the city commission to tell you what to do. The city commission told staff to come back and look at alternatives to policing and such. Also, with the K-9 unit being out of commission for almost 2 months, I mean, this is an opportunity to look at, did violent crime increase in the neighborhood? Is the K-9 unit even necessary? There's a lot of things that you all can look at and explore that have happened, and I just don't think this conversation needs to wait, and it's a bunch of bureaucratic red tape.
I agree. Can we switch the topics from the May to March? I mean, Tuesday, the city commission is addressing it. And I don't believe our vote was just on disbanding. Was it, Kali?
I don't remember for sure. I have to see the transcript.
It was.
Yeah.
Ms. Chan just made a very salient point there. We just saw the city commission bring in 3 new members, and they call it a new commission. And their first major action was to totally reverse the last major act of the commission last fall. So I think it is a very salient point that we have new members, and they ought to be in, get to have a chance to get into the discussion.
I guess as one of those new members, I will say, I abstained from a lot of stuff from last year because I wasn't here, so I don't want to go into that. But yeah, I'm happy to get caught up and do as much as I can to get on board with everybody else. But yes, I would also welcome the opportunity to have that additional discussion and look at it again.
So, I guess we should simply, when they talk about what occurred last year, they're talking about a vote or a non-vote to make a recommendation to disband the K-9. And I'm not sure what the recommendation is tonight that is being pushed. I don't think there is one, honestly. Are you just simply wanting to have a conversation about?
Yeah, in March about it, because there is a meeting at 1. I'm going to be there on Tuesday. We were told that there was going to be another community meeting. Commissioner Duncan Walker said that with UF law professor Kenneth Nunn. That hasn't happened. So, yeah. I mean, I would rather advise about stuff like that than bylaws, frankly.
I'm sorry, advise about stuff like what?
Like important things that have happened in our community, like people being mauled by the...
Okay, and we, as a council, made a decision on that as far as the disbanding of the K-9 unit.
Okay, well, let's have a discussion in March it doesn't have to be disbanding. I would like to hear if any procedures, are they still using them to go after people after a traffic stop? I mean, there's questions you can ask that don't have to do with disbanding. It's like, what procedures have changed?
I will motion to move the K-9 meeting from May to March. If there's a
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're gonna flip-flop those. Thank you. Back under discussion notes, GPD training in Israel, no. GPD is not training in Israel. That was a question.
They have before. It wasn't an unfounded ask.
I didn't think it was, but I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Well, people
The council
laughed
knew
as if that
that-
sounded ridiculous. They were trained in Israel,
But
which,
they're not being.
okay.
Okay. GPD lawsuits update. There's a couple of different items on here. One, there was a question about the Collier International SWAT team case. That is in litigation right now. There can be no comment on that case right now. We cannot have a comment on that case. There were two cases that I believe were settled, and Chief Investigator Koenig, I think, might have a little bit of an update on those two cases that would help us out.
Good evening, everyone. Jamie Koenig, Chief Inspector. Thank you for the honor to speak in front of you today. I'm assuming the $100,000,
Two of them.
yes, and those were in December, during the December commission meetings. Those were two of the cases that we reviewed earlier in the year, Sheila. Both of them were in relation to the improper detention and arrest of two innocent individuals, both with warrants. One was the Miss Brown case, and she was arrested in Virginia on a warrant that had the wrong date of birth attached to it, and was spent several days in jail. And then the second case was the Taylor Collings case, and that was similar, although a significant amount of time between the two cases. They just happened to come in close to the same time, and she was arrested and spent a few days in jail also. So those were the settlements on those cases.
Questions at all?
Well, I know Mr. Bradley, they're suing because he's incurred $250,000 in health debts. I mean, in many cities, it's been changed where lawsuits, the money comes out of the police department budget instead of the city commission. Of course, we're just advisory, so
Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
thanks for getting through all those.
Absolutely.
And also to make mention, in both of those cases, both cases were sustained and violations were ensued on both of the officers that were involved in those, which resulted in discipline. So I know we reviewed those cases and we did talk about them within the committee. So, but the officers were held accountable and were disciplined and received time off.
Thank you. So Juvenile Justice and Community Support Program and Reichert House, we're going to have Chief Tony Jones and Director John Magruder come speak to that. We're going to take a look at the schedule just based on tonight's meeting, when that might be, whether that's going to be next month or might be in April, I'm not sure yet. Okay, we have the Chief's update, and Chief Scott, I asked Chief Scott, well, let me background this a little bit. The Gainesville Police Department Chief's position is one of the most important positions in the city of Gainesville. One of the most visible positions. Person is seen as a leader to the community. And what we know of Chief Scott is typically what we read in the paper or what we see on TV. And how much do we really know about Chief Scott? So I've asked Chief Scott to talk a little bit about something that's pretty uncomfortable, and that's who he is. And what's a day in the life of the chief like? and just to help us understand a little bit better about you and about your job.
Thank you, Chair and Honorable Committee. I think it's no secret I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. Grew up in Liberty City. I grew up challenged, and I didn't always end up on the right side of the law as a young person. When I became 14 years of age, I had an opportunity to work and to get paid a couple dollars for working, and I took it, and from that point forward, I never took anything that wasn't mine. But prior to that, I cannot attest to what I took that wasn't mine, but it was quite a bit. I came from a background that was very challenging. I think as I speak often, I share that I've had two of my brothers that were shot and killed in the streets, murdered. I will confess also that when the first was killed, I was a police officer here, and I contemplated going down to Miami to extract a measure of revenge. And I give God the credit that he touched me and woke me up and said, no matter what you do, you cannot bring him back to this earth. If you ever want to see him again, you have to live a righteous life. I've been trying to do that. And I take, personally, anytime we have a person that's killed in the city of Gainesville, first thing I ask is, could we have stopped it? What could we have done to stop it? And it's personal to me. And I'd like to point out that when we swear in our officers, when we interview our officers, we're not looking for people that are looking for jobs. We're looking for people that have that calling, who want to be law enforcement officers, who want to be heroes. You don't come into this profession because you want to hurt people. You come into this profession because you want to save people. You grew up watching Batman, Superman, Thor, Hulk, Captain America. All these figures wanted to emulate the fact that they were saving people. And now, as the leader of the Gainesville Police Department, knowing that everything I do reflects upon the membership of the Gainesville Police Department, it is everything that I am as a black man, as a University of Florida graduate, as a native of Miami and my adopted home, Gainesville, as a head deacon of my church, as a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. Everything that I represent, I try to represent to the best of my abilities. And everything I do reflects on those organizations and who I am. I take pride in that. It took me almost 38 years to establish this reputation as a law enforcement officer. I don't take it lightly. I've arrested over 1,000, if not almost 2,000 people. But I've saved more lives or influenced more lives than that. And that's what I take pride in. What troubles me today is to see the demonization of law enforcement in this country. To have folks who see these officers, and I have young officers that go out daily, and because they put on a uniform, for some people they're targets in the community. And I had a young mother not long ago get into a scuffle with an armed subject. And quite frankly, that officer could have used deadly force and did not. Thank God, both people left that situation alive. But I think about that young mother that put her life on the line. I think about the fact that I want to make sure that she gets home every night. We're not here to hurt anyone. Why do you think we join? Why do you think you answer this calling? But there's a segment of society, no matter what we do or say, that will never join us in trying to save our community. I'm a grandparent. Yes, I'm that old. I'm a father, an uncle, a brother. And I tell you right now, when we're dealing with some of these folks out there, I think about the fact that what if that was mine? What was that? How would I feel? And what troubles me We can have an officer do something wrong 3,000 miles away, and we get demonstrators actively on the street demonstrating against what's happening, something that happened 3,000 miles away. But we have people, 13-year-old kids, that are killed at the American Legion Center. We have 10 people that were murdered in this county, in this city, last year. Not one demonstration. Why? If that doesn't fire you up, and if you don't want to get out there and try to save a life, that's why I said this is a calling. You have to care. You have to care about what we are doing and how we're doing it. And we would like to tell you that we do everything perfect, but we don't. We occasionally make mistakes, and when we have officers that make mistakes, we discipline them. In some cases, we terminate them. Do we publicize it all the time? No. We lost an officer last month. Do the right thing. What I say to my officers, I expect that you always will try to do the right thing. If you make a mistake, own it, and I'll back you. I'm not going to tell you I won't discipline you, but I will back you because your intent was correct. Now look, growing up like I grew up and seeing the things I've seen and working these streets here and seeing people die and dead, walking up not a few weeks ago, right down the street from here, young man on the porch, dead. I get a call, 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:50 in the morning, get out here at 2 something, and see that young man and realize that an hour ago he was alive. But he's not there now. How can you not care about that? How can you not be impassioned to hit the streets and say, we're going to change this now? And unfortunately, most of the people that are dying like that look like me. And the people that are perpetrating these crimes look like me. Let's find out why and change that. One thing that we're doing now that we did a little bit different, and Chief and I used to do it years ago, and they got away from it, but I went back to it, is I interview every police officer that we hire now. We just hired 12 officers. Every police officer, I sit on a panel. Sometimes I use Chief Inspector Koenig and Captain Ferrara. We sit on that panel and we sit down and we talk to those folks and we look them in the eye to see what we're getting. Previously, we've used members of this panel and other citizens to sit on our interview panel, and I want to reinvest in that and do that again because they work for you as a community. And if you look at the world and the way the world is structured right now, the biggest issues that we have is the division that's occurring amongst all the different countries right now. People line up in different groups. Well, that same component has infected our community, where there's elements that are trying to divide us when we are one community. Because I'm a police officer doesn't make me part of this community. I am part of the community. We are a community, and we have to act as a community, and the only way we're going to solve these problems is that we as a community sit down, identify what the problems are, come up with an action plan, and then implement it, and we all are invested in it. At night, the things that keep me up. How am I going to get more police officers to join this police department? How am I going to get police officers from this community that will become part of the problem solution? How will they become part of the solution? How will they join the police department and work with the community to try to address the problems that we have? That keeps me up when I know I have 40+ vacancies right now. And how do I make this job more attractive to them? And I can't just remember years ago Miami had a problem where they had an influx of immigrants and they hired a bunch of police officers to try to deal with it, and they hired some really bad cops. And they had cops doing things that weren't right. I can't make that mistake here. I need to make sure I hire the best quality officers and put them on the road to maintain our credibility with our neighbors and to make sure that they're investing in our community. That's what keeps me up at night. How do I get more people to join our department so that we can provide the service that I know we can provide that would be better than what we do now? But believe it or not, we're one of the best in the country. Our clearance for homicides, the clearance rate, 100% in last year. The year before, it was 87.5. I think we had one that wasn't solved. The year before that, 100%. The average, on a national average, is like 60+%. We are 100%. I'm proud of what my officers do. Understaffed, sometimes underpaid, but they do a darn good job in trying to solve the problem. But for me, it's great that we can solve these crimes. What our higher calling is preventing them. Working with you, our community, to prevent these crimes. And I get challenged from different quarters. I don't have a problem with that. I've had people call me, people on this committee, and point out something that they thought that wasn't right. I have no issue with that. It makes me go back and look at it, and if I can't explain it, then I need to change it. So I encourage you to keep doing that. And don't take my word for what I'm telling you about what we have on staff here. Come out, ride on the shift. You can pick your officer. We don't have to cherry pick. You ride and you ask them questions. You watch and see what they do and see how they do it. And you come away with your impression, not mine. We're a good police department. I'm proud of it. My goal is that we be the best, if not one of the best in the country.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
We'll take you up on the offer. If
Okay.
you would like a council member to sit on the interview panel.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think we all agree with that.
All right, we'll be doing that.
And before COVID, I used to try to do ride-alongs. Now we can do it again. And there's nothing better than going on a shift, sitting there, and to my surprise, they don't hold back.
Yeah,
The officers, they tell me what they're thinking.
yeah.
If they like something or don't like it, they just don't hold back. But I learned a lot. I really learned a lot. So I think everyone on this council ought to do a ride-along, at least once a year. And they're open again now, I think.
Yeah, we allow folks to ride, and you can call and Deborah, in fact, can facilitate that for you.
Yeah.
Some of the commissioners have ridden recently, and I think it's eye-opening, Me telling you how something feels and some of the challenges that are out there, you riding out there and seeing it.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the point where you have concern for your safety, then you have a little understanding of what the officer's concerned about, as well. But, we recognize that it's not all about how many people we arrest. It's about what can we do in the beginning to stop it from ever happening. How can we deal with that? This, to me, staffing, the violence, escalating violence, not just here, nationally, that's when I lay down at night, that's what I think about.
Chief, I think everybody on the council knows this, but it probably needs to be said. The chief doesn't know what an 8-hour workday is, and he doesn't know what a 5-day work week is. It just
True.
doesn't exist.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My husband works 100 hours a week.
Okay, procedural justice training. We've asked Chief Tony Jones and Chief Inspector Jamie Kernick to share with us a little bit of information on procedural justice training.
Certainly. Mr. Chair, Ms. Board, just want to go over a little bit with you tonight about procedural justice. As Chief indicated earlier, we began this journey really ahead of the ball game, but it actually came from President Obama right in about 2014 when we started having a number of national incidents around the nation that involved police and citizens. And what I think the president said was that I'm going to create a board, 11-member board, task force, and he called it the 21st Century Policing Task Force, and we're going to come back with solutions in 90 days. And so they went all around the country. They had citizens, they had police officers, medical people, and everything else, and they came back with some recommendations that he couldn't mandate that you do it, but it was highly suggested that you do it. And one of those things was, I think he had different pillars, and first pillar was procedural justice. Procedural justice. He said that this is what every agency should take. And I think if y'all look at your paper there, what is procedural justice? It refers to the idea of fairness in the process that resolve disputes and allocate resources. The interesting thing about it was, not only was it for the community, but it was internally for police agencies as well. Police agencies was having fractions within, so how can you go out and provide services out in the community? And so it was not only inside, but it was outside, but really based on 4 principles, and you got it listed in there: being fair in your process, being transparent in your actions, and providing opportunities for voice, and being impartial in your decision making. That's what he was looking for, not only inside, but outside of the police agencies as well. And as I said on that one, what is the justice? Internally, the justice refers to within your agency, and externally, procedure justice refers to within the community. We had agencies that were infighting among themselves. You had lawsuits from people saying I wasn't getting promoted because of the color of my skin, or I didn't get a raise, or I didn't get this assignment because of this and that. And you had a hierarchy at the top that was like, I'm not talking to them. I'm the chief, I'm the commanders, and I make my own decisions. And so I think what the president and his committee, and Chuck Ramsey was the vice president. If anybody know Chief Ramsey, he's a hero of mine. He was Philadelphia police chief as well as Washington police chief. Went to many classes that he offered, and he saw this. And he was also the chief of the Major Chiefs Association of the United States. So that's why he was saying, look folks, if we're gonna do something, let's look at ourselves first. And then let's look into the community as well. So he did those particular things. Go to the next one. Being fair. The perception of fairness is not just about the outcomes. People consider both the outcomes of a decision and the process by which a decision was made when forming their decision, of their opinion about whether it was fair or not, both internally and externally. You had, and I call it traditional policing, they weren't talking with the public. Okay, so they go in and say, I'm gonna do this in this community, I'm gonna do this in that community. I could care less what the public said. My job is to resolve crime. That was the mindset. And so when these things happen, what they were building up. They were explosions that were building up because you weren't communicating with the people. And so that was one of the things that the president recommended. You know, let's be fair in the process. Let's communicate. Let's talk. I think some of the things that we're talking about tonight. The next one. The second pillar of a procedural justice concerns voice. All people want to be heard. And involving people or groups in the decisions that affects them and affects the assessment of a given situation. Everyone wants to feel as though that they have a measure of control over their fate. So giving people a voice, giving people a voice. I'm gonna date myself, make y'all think about an old TV show that was called Dragnet. And when Jack Webb would come out on the scene, the first thing he'll say is, give me the facts, just the facts. And the person may be telling them what he was talking about earlier. I know he don't know nothing about that. but the person may be telling them, well, you know, Sergeant, this is the reason why we having these burglaries in the neighborhood. But he was under the traditional mindset, and under the traditional mindset, I just want the facts. When did this place got broken into? What, you know, when the last time you seen it secure? When the last time you seen it that? You got to get away from that. That's what Ramsey and his committee was saying. Give people a voice. The lady was trying to tell him something, and he just, give me the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. That's all I want to hear from you. So that's what you're trying to get away from, and you're trying to give people a voice. And you notice he said it there about sometime you writing a citation, people don't want to get a ticket. I done got a ticket before in life, you don't want to get that. But, you let them hear their side of the story, but you still gonna do what you're obligated to do if you feel that is what's happening at that point. But giving people a voice will say, wow, I really like my agency, at least they listened to me. It didn't help me with the ticket, but at least they listened to me. And that's what they were saying on that particular thing. Transparency. Third pillar of procedural justice is openness of the process. Transparency means that the processes by which the decisions are made do not rely on secrecy or deception. One of the things that I know Chief would tell you about that we used to do, people say, I want speed or stop in my neighborhood. I'm tired of speeding in my neighborhood. We had the resources, but we would tell them, okay, now we're going to come to the neighborhood, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we tell them when, but you might get a ticket also. We're going to be transparent about it. We are going to be transparent about what we're doing in the neighborhood with the people. And a lot of time, we will go even further. Let's work together and see how we can address this problem in the neighborhood. So we want to be transparent and not be secrecy. Back in the day, I can tell you that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen if we would see a lot of accidents or whatever in the neighborhood, light it up. When I say light it up, turn your lights on and get out there and stuff like that. So what we try to do is work with the community, and that's what Chief Rams and the committee was recommending, is that we want to be transparent and not doing things. That's why you see all the doors closed and you see one open. You want to have an open door in that. The fourth pillar was impartiality and unbiased decision making. The fourth pillar of procedural justice is impartiality and unbiased decision making. And basically, decisions are made on relative evidence and data rather than on a person's opinion, speculation, or guesswork. Americans have a strong sense of fairness, and especially in a media-driven society. You want to make your decisions on facts. And I think that I've lived long enough to see law enforcement where we get very scientific. We got a crime analysis unit, and that's why I'm glad y'all gonna do your training again, because y'all saw this before. So yeah, if I'm focusing on a certain area, I got data to back it up. And then going back to being transparent, talk with the community. Talk with the community about, we got these issues in the neighborhood and how can we help that? And when you look at some of the cities that I've seen across the United States, and I like throwing them out there, that don't happen. That don't happen. I got a problem in your neighborhood, I'm going to solve your problem. I went trained with them, and I couldn't believe they were doing it in modern time, the way that they were doing things. And I say, we would never do something like this in Gainesville, where I'm from. But they just identified a problem, and I'm going in the neighborhood, and I'm gonna solve that problem. But did you talk? I don't have to ask permission, but at least let's kind of talk with the residents, but I don't have to do that. And I was with a county, I wasn't chief, but I was with a commander then, and I don't have to do that. The last one is police legitimacy. It reflects the belief that police ought to be allowed to exercise their authority to maintain social order, manage conflicts, and solve problems in the community. Legitimacy is reflected in three things. First of all, public trust. You have to continue to earn public trust, and you do that through communication and working with the public. The second one is like the chief was saying, 100% clearance rate. A lot of times, people help us in investigation. Don't ever think an agency gonna come in there and you got these super sleuths. Hampton, if it's good, I was seeing back there, Paris, if it's good, you got these super sleuths that's gonna come in and boom, you got it. A lot of times you depend on witness information. But I will tell you this, some of these agencies that are 50 or 40%, they don't have legitimacy in the neighborhood. So when you come up and ask the question, did you see what happened? No, I ain't seen nothing. Oh, is a crime happened there? And you know darn well a crime happened there. No, I didn't see it. Because why? They don't have trust in the police. Yeah, I'll say it nationally. They don't have trust in the police. So that's why some of those particular things happen. And then the other thing is, by the neighbors, the willingness to call us. A lot of times people won't call. They see it, okay? I know when I was here, they would call. They would call. That's how we get gunfire shots fired in the neighborhood or whatever thing. And finally, legitimacy involves the belief that the police actions are morally justified and appropriate for the circumstance. And this is something you have to continue to build on. This is something that you really have to continue to build on. All these things that I was saying, you have to build on. One of the things that I would hope, and Inspector Koenig knows that I've asked for this needs to be taught in the police academies, but it's not. We took it upon ourselves, and I'm glad she's here tonight. We train our officers on this. But in the state of Florida, you go to the police academy and you get certified as an officer, it is not part of your curriculum. So it's not taught there. A lot of states, it is not taught in. But these are some of the things, I think if you go to Pillar 5 in the report, it will show you that they were saying that this not only should be taught in your academy, but it also should have refreshing in those particular things. So that is procedural justice.
Thank you. Questions?
Sorry,
Yes.
the last part, when you talk about the police legitimacy, you're saying so that's part of the curriculum within the city of Gainesville here that you teach officers? Yeah.
Yeah, and she's here now, more, and she can tell you about what is actually trained in there.
Okay, that's going to be my question. I don't know if
Okay,
you can get some of that curriculum that's actually...
So absolutely, the one thing I want you to recognize is the ability for our agency to see what's coming before it's coming. So in 2014, 2015, when our entire agency, and we had many supervisors that went through this training, Chief Jones said, I want this from top to bottom at the organization. And now our new recruits who are coming into the door get this introduction. Captain Owens is here, she's an instructor. Captain Young is an instructor. I'm an instructor. I haven't done as much teaching as them, and I will tell you that. But what I will tell you is the concept of procedural justice is amazing, but the one thing that both Chief Jones and Chief Scott are very, very good at is when we talk about fairness internal to the agency, if you put in for any unit within our agency, you go through a selection process, and there's a set of criteria you have to go through to meet that. And then you are ranked by how you score in those processes. That is fairness and treating it fairly no matter what the position is. So a very neat thing that happened about a year ago, and we've done it in several other processes, is Chief Scott and Chief Jones brought in community members to help select our next members of our command staff for the rank of captain. So not only are they sitting in on our selection of new officers to our department, but the community has become totally immersed within our department to be open and transparent. So there was a community panel that the captain's applicants had to go in front of and answer questions about how they would handle situations in the community. And they used that as, I will call it that interview and those scores as part of the selection process to become a captain of our agency. That is called total trust in your community to say, who do you want to lead this police agency and how do you want to go for the future? We have citizens who've helped us review and actually create policy. We created a transgender policy to help within our LGBTQ plus community. And before it ever even touched our, I will call it our database, we went and sat down at the Pride Center with members of the community and go, is this relevant? Are we right on this? Do you think this is the right way to go? It's important that our agency is transparent in every way. And Chief Scott and Chief Jones started us down this path, and Chief Scott has helped us as we continue to be this transparent agency. So I went to the FBI National Academy several years ago. What I will tell you is I have people from all over the country that want our policies and procedures on how we do the pre-arrest program, what we're doing with the Reichert House, maybe what we're doing even for things like traffic enforcement and what our policies say. And I say to them all the time, hey guys, here's the link. And they're like, what? Your policies are on a public link on your public website where everyone has access to them? And it's an anomaly. All of our policies and procedures are on our homepage. We're transparent. You want it, you got it. Florida Sunshine Law says that, but not all agencies in the state of Florida have their policies wide open sitting on their website. We do. We're not scared. We want everyone in. We want the community to tell us what this is all about. This is what procedural justice is. It's a partnership between us and the community, and it's creating an environment for all of us to understand that fairness and unbiased treatment of both ourselves within the agency and out in the community is paramount to our agency being successful in community policing. So when Chief Scott talks about an action plan, he's talking and he's saying, we go to the community, we go and sit in people's living rooms and say, we have a problem in your neighborhood, and help us solve this, because we can't do it on our own. I recently went to a class and I asked everybody, it was filled with police officers, and I asked everybody in the room to give me the number of crimes that they had prevented in their career. And most officers can say maybe 1 or 2 that they've prevented in their career, maybe caught it in progress, right? Maybe 5 if you're really lucky, okay? But the only way that we solve crimes is because people call us and are willing to communicate with us as community members and tell us what's going on and help us catch the person responsible. Our cases and our entire investigation in most cases is super reliant not only on our skills as an agency to be able to bring forensics and skilled investigators and interrogators, but the community to help us with the information needed on who saw what was happening. So the cornerstone of what makes Gainesville Police Department so successful is the community. It is the representatives out there who are willing to help us. And procedural justice is how that all began. I mean, we did community policing for the last 20 plus years, even a little longer. I know it started with, I'm not gonna look back. It wasn't that long ago. And I don't want to illustrate that at all. But what I do want to say is this, is that our culture inherently within our organization is to partner with the community, is to listen, and is to work on this together, because we're not going to solve it on our own, and we're never going to arrest our way out of it. It's got to be a community partnership in order for us to hit the problems that are most important to you and most important to every community member in our neighborhoods. Because sometimes it's a loud stereo down the street, you know, when we think it's something else, and we are very surprised when we actually take the time to sit and listen and hear, and then figure out what we're going to do next. So I just wanted to mention that. Sheila, raise the hand.
So I'm the one that asked about it.
Sure.
I have big packets if anybody wants. So, I mean, the whole point is at the end of the interaction with the police officer, people feel like they were well treated. How many hours of training, and then I have a follow-up question. How many hours of training and how soon do people get that training?
So Mini Academy is when they graduate from the police academy, and the moment they come into our agency, we have them for 5 weeks before they go into field training. So it's immediate. I don't know the number of hours. I can get you that information. That's not a problem. It is interwoven in most of our, like as you go through in-service, and the refreshers are very important, that we do, have these conversations and talk about how we treat individuals. In 2015, we had the Mayor's Community Response Council, which asked us to get business cards for every officer with their name and ID on it, so that when you interact with someone in the public, you would be able to provide your own business card, so that if they had any follow-up or any kind of, wanted to follow up with you, or even a way to, to talk to your supervisor, they would have the availability to do that.
So in many
ma'am.
communities, they allow community members who are most affected to help fashion those procedures that you all are teaching. Has that been done?
I can't say that it has, Sheila, but I would have to ask those that are teaching it most relevantly now. I'm getting a little distant from the training realm right now in my current role, just because of my assignment. So.
Yeah. Well, I just say with all respect, most of my interactions with police, because I did work for GPD, were either neutral or positive.
Okay.
But in times of stress, like during demonstrations, You're the only person that I've ever seen handle it perfect every time. There wasn't a feeling by the community members, part of it, that this process was being used, that people felt at the end that they were listened to also. I'm not gonna belabor it, I just wanted to know, the reason I brought it up is if y'all are using this procedure, because in the end, it's, people need to feel heard that are talking to the police officer too.
So I'm gonna throw a few key words out, and so trauma-informed is the first one. And what we've recognized in law enforcement and through many years of training, we have instrumentally, and we trained all of our patrol officers, this was several years ago, and I'd have to look at Captain Owens or Captain Farrar to tell me when, but we actually brought individuals who were trained in dealing with people who had recently dealt with trauma. And we went to all of the patrol bureaus and said, these are the common signs of when someone's in trauma. Now listen, when we go to calls for service, the public is in trauma a lot. They have been through a horrific traffic crash. They're a victim of a crime. Something's happening that, and sometimes it's just a medical emergency and we're there first. How do you, as a person, how do we deal with empathy and care and compassion? And what I will tell you is this, Chief Scott's got a philosophy about we treat every member of this community as our family, and that's his expectation of everybody from the top of our agency to the very bottom. And we've communicated that to all of the officers. How would you like to be treated if this was your family member? And recognize that we as officers have an impact on how those people feel. So I know we've done trauma-informed training. We've even talked about juvenile justice, about kids who have dealt with trauma. And a lot of our school resource officers have been through that. We have close to, if I remember right, 100 officers, it might be a little shy of that with people leaving and coming, who are crisis intervention trained, dealing with people who have been through a crisis, how to handle those crises. So law enforcement in general is really looking at how we talk to individuals who've been in that trauma, and we've been integrating that in our training along with de-escalation, trying to get people to relax, do breathing techniques. I've told people to take deep breaths before and sit down and let me hold your hand, because I've had victims who have been so upset. But we are now incorporating that into all the law enforcement training because we understand how important it is and how many things are trauma to the person that we're dealing with. But let's flip the channel on procedural justice and talk about the trauma the officers go through. We have an in-house crisis intervention stress management team that when an officer goes to a really stressful situation or sees a child who has been hurt, an adult who has been hurt, or has seen something very traumatic, we offer counseling and services in-house between officers who are trained to do that and trained professionals. Because what we recognize is that this job inherently, you see a lot, I will say more stress and more trauma than most people do in a lifetime. And we're with people through all of that, and some of us carry it too. So we understand that. And we understand the community does come first. And if you are not polite or disrespectful, it is addressed within our agency. And I see our supervisors doing that when that situation does come, and the chief had mentioned that. But what I will tell you is, each one of us as human beings understands that everyone goes through something, and we're just trying to do the best job we can. You know, it's a very tough job when you have people yelling at you or someone's in trauma and we have to change the channel. But our co-responder team, we have 4 of them that have the mental health professionals with them. Those guys are the heroes and the saints also, because they deal with people who are in mental health crises all the time and all day long, and they divert people away from jail. We have a lot of programs, we have a lot of training, and we really believe in it. And it is a philosophy that's carried from the chief to the troops when he stands in front of briefing and he tells them, this is what I expect of you. These community members are our family. We are all members of the community, and we expect you to treat everyone as if they were your family. And how would you treat your brother or your cousin who just went through something? So it's important for us.
Can I say, and then I'll quit asking. From what I've read, like testimonies from police officers where they've been doing the training, that it actually helps alleviate their stress to approach that way, that they actually, I'm just saying that the testimonies I read, that's why I was interested if you all So do you all have like a packet of
Um,
training? You're saying it's incorporated all through?
I can get you the documentation that you would like, and Ms. Holt can provide it. Just, Ms. Holt, please remind me, and
Thank you.
we'll get it for you. Yes, ma'am?
I mean, the curriculum, right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
curriculum, I apologize,
No, no, I
yes.
just wanted to.
And you can have the PowerPoint with the curriculum, because we have to have both, so.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you both, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Closed IA cases, you all received copies of October, November, and December. I wasn't expected that you read them all again. That was just as an opportunity for new member to take a look at those. So I'm just going to ask the general question, are there any questions on those cases specifically? Okay. Cases from January, I'm going to go through, I do this a little differently. I'm going to go through them in order on the agenda. And what I do is I'll just do the first one. This is 22-063. This was a case where the officer failed to submit evidence in a timely manner on 3 occasions. That was sustained. That officer received a written letter and a 6-hour unpaid suspension. Are there questions on that case? Okay. Case 22-068. This was a false arrest, a snatched purse. It was unfounded. Are there questions on that case? Okay. Case 22-071. This was an officer who used derogatory comments in the BizNet system. It was sustained, and that officer received a written warning. Questions on that case? Sheila?
So Officer Millman was one of the people, Officer Allen. He also, in that same month, I think, with the Terrell Bradley, I know he was disciplined for that interaction. I'm concerned that it seems to be a pattern with Officer Millman, and I don't know if y'all addressed that incident that happened with Officer Allen at the same time you addressed the Terrell Bradley incident.
So, are you in regards to this case, Sheila, or
Yeah.
I guess?
Yeah.
So no, this case came to our attention after the fact, after that, and looking at some VisiNet messaging. So no, this was not on the radar for us until after we were, and once we were looking at messaging just to make sure that there was nothing, and we ended up finding this in happenstance, and we thought it needed to be addressed just because of the language that Officer Allen used, and Officer Millman was not at fault in this case. It was just one officer talking to another. But Officer Millman is, and those during that, still, of course, was disciplined in the Bradley case. So yes, ma'am.
You might want to stay off of it.
Case 22-033. This was a case where an officer made derogatory comments about a fire investigator to a suspect. That was sustained. Officer received a written warning. Are there questions on that case?
That's like, that one, they went through, they called it the early resolution. I don't remember the exact term that they
Okay.
went through.
So are we talking about the ready?
Is that the ready, yeah, I just don't remember the acronym. That was, basically is a fast track way to get through the.
Yep. I'm not sure, and I apologize, I don't know if this is the case that went through that. There are so many, so.
Okay.
But
it's
Lieutenant
okay.
Durst,
'Cause
this
my-
one wasn't a ready. This one
Oh, I'm
was
sorry.
not, okay.
Okay.
My IA commander is in the back of the room, so I got very lucky he's working overtime here with us.
I'm sorry, then I might have missed that with a different one.
Okay.
It's a general thing. Is that just I'm not gonna disagree with anything that's there and get through
So
it?
it's called a ready, and it's in 26.5, it's in our discipline process. The ready is a request for an expedited disposition when you accept responsibility for your actions in the case. Typically, when we take that, there is a small reduction in the discipline that is offered to the officer, and that is at the discretion of the chief, because the chief can say, either the person, this offense doesn't qualify for a ready, because some cases, if it involves moral character or criminal action, the readies aren't appropriate in those actions. And it also, the chief also has autonomy to say, yes, I will accept that as, and for us, it makes it easier because, I hate to say that, there's a lot of investigation that goes into many of these cases, so that's a little shortened also.
Sure. Thank you, I just want to clarify.
Yes, yes,
I just have a question of procedure.
yes.
Just, I was wondering, I mean, I get what the lieutenant was doing, but the fire inspector, I just want to know, do y'all work with them? Why wasn't the fire inspector the one that was asking the questions? I know they had called the person.
So, so in this case, the lead investigator on it is Detective Bunovich, and they work hand in hand with the fire investigator, but the fire investigator is actually usually the one who digs the scene, determines the cause of what the fire came from, so whether it was accidental or was an arson case, someone set the fire intentionally. In every case it's different, and some of those procedures are handled differently, and I wouldn't want to speak to that unless, Captain Owens is here, but, this is
I watch TV
yes.
sometimes.
So they do work together, they do work hand in hand, and I guess that's how she ended up reviewing the case, but I don't know why she wasn't involved in that. And that really isn't, Sheila, for us, it was there misconduct or not? Did the officer act inappropriately?
Pretty rude.
So,
Pretty rude.
And just so you know, the officer openly apologized to Investigator Durasmo when they ran into each other in a happenstance and accepted responsibility. So I think that kindness and that goodness to come back and say, then it shows good faith and that he was truly remorseful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Case 22-045. This was a case where a detective used 4 words in an interview with a minor, and the detective was exonerated. Questions on that case?
One comment. I know Detective explained what happened, but I was pretty shocked about the language that was used with a minor and talking about her own proclivities. So I don't know why. Hopefully she won't do it anymore. And everyone knows how coarse I am. I don't talk like that around kids.
Case 22-044. There were 2 items identified here. Excessive use of force was unfounded, and not being provided video footage was unfounded. Are there questions on that case? Case 22047. This was a case of a failure to arrest, which was unfounded. However, the officer did receive formal verbal counseling. Questions on that case? Case 22-051. This was an officer who overstated or overstood his duty. That was unfounded. You'll have to help me out with this one. There was an arrest for drinking.
A probation violation?
As a passenger under special consideration?
Yes.
Okay. So the passenger was drinking.
Admitted to drinking, it is a probation violation.
Cocaine.
And the judge, so in this case, the person, he actually pled no contendere, nolo contendere, and was adjudicated guilty. And he was sentenced to 15 years in prison off of this case, after that, so yes.
Thank you.
I do have a question on that. The complainant did mention that there was never any breathalyzer or blood alcohol content. Was that not relevant? It's just the fact of drinking was the violation?
Correct. The fact of drinking and being on probation, where it says you're not allowed to have consume any alcohol or narcotics during that time, and openly admitting it is prima facie.
So,
If he was,
if,
yes,
okay, go ahead.
that's okay. So breathalyzer is for driving, if you're, to do that once we have probable cause after you do field sobriety test. Mr. Blunt, I apologize for not answering that. Do field sobriety test, we get probable cause for your arrest for DUI, then we take you for the breathalyzer test either at our station or at the jail. And that's for driving under the influence, not so much for something like this. Yes, ma'am.
This case really bothers me. So if me as a 66-year-old or what I put as my 70-year-old white friend in her car had a brake light out, I'm really bothered that the brake light and then there's a stop and they start questioning the passenger. I do feel maybe that it's racial profiling. And it's the same thing, other cases we've had where, like the guy at the convenience store, where they're asking him as the passenger what's going on, and then he gets in trouble. I do feel like it was racial profiling. Why is a passenger being questioned? And I feel like that wouldn't have happened to me if I was driving with my friend and her taillight was out. And that really bothers me out of all these other cases.
Well, the investigation goes into that, and that there is a lawful detention of the passenger in the car, and that is just part of case law. I understand.
Yeah, I think
but
it's wrong that they even question him. Same thing happened at the convenience store when that guy ran off, but he was a passenger, I'm always thinking someone's gonna find out my tag and pull me over for all my big mouth.
No.
But I don't think that if I'd been sitting in my friend's car, two old women, white women, that they would have come over and started questioning me. I just think it's really wrong.
Case 22-052 was a case of police misconduct. That case was unfounded. Question on that case. And case 22058, this was a vehicle pursuit, which was unfounded. They were chasing a stolen vehicle at the time. Questions on that case? Okay. Thank you for your questions on these cases. Sheila made a comment earlier about one of the cases about finding kind of a similarity between potentially a couple of cases. As part of what we do is that we look at IA cases, and if there's a common thread or a common stream of something that we see, we bring that to the attention of the police. It might even be a recommendation for some change, a policy change. So we need to pay very, very close attention to these, as you've done this time. So I appreciate it very much. Okay, Police Advisory Council comments. And I would also ask, if you have, we've got a couple of ideas of things to include in the next meeting. Are there any other thoughts that you might have?
Hi, I'm
want to
Alana.
include in the
I'm
next
pre-med
meeting?
at Wayne State University.
Sorry.
I'm glad it wasn't terrible.
I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Alana. I'm here
I thought you were going to break that screen.
I was trying to make it pause.
So if you have any other ideas for other things you'd like to see during the meeting, if you could also comment to that. So Advisory Council comments.
Well, two comments. First, I really appreciate the chief's presentation tonight. You know, we have to look at it from both sides. And the chief said, you know, what's it like for an officer? And then Sheila made an interesting point, and it's an issue that's always going to confront us. As the chief said, people who look like him are the ones who are being murdered and committing the murders, and that's the statistics. And then we have the issue, okay, then cops pull people over, bad tail light, and there's always the issue, was that just driving while black? And it's an issue that comes up in the community. And as an advisory board, people have come in front of us with that. And we're the ones that really have to deal with that issue. And it's a tough one. I have to say, from knowing Gainesville's training and enough ride-alongs, knowing enough cops, Gainesville is generally head and shoulders above other departments in um, getting rid of bad eggs, really interviewing at many, many levels to try to get the best. I went to the swearing in the other day, and there was one kid I mentored that was getting sworn in. And I was very impressed by the 12 people that were sworn in. I mean, very impressed by their backgrounds, their enthusiasm. So Gainesville has something going for it. And there's a lot of a good emotional bank account with the community, so we don't have George Floyd incidences. But as Sheila points out, sometimes it does seem unfair. And it's something that's very difficult to deal with, and we need to look at it. And, you know, what can we do? We need to interact with the community and say, is there something we can do to improve it? That's why I strongly recommend that we try to do a ride-along and see what it looks like. If we don't, as a police advisory, we don't see it from both sides, what's it like being in the community, especially minority community who has more issues, and what's it like being a cop? If we don't look at it from both sides, we're not doing our job very well. And that's what's required, that's all. So I think that the issue Sheila raised is something that we can discuss, and there may be no obvious solution to it, but the problem is there.
Thank you. Other comment?
Yeah, Sharon, I was trying to figure out how to say this before coming here today. But I'll just make it plain. And no disrespect to the members of the advisory council, but it came up last year, and I made my position clear. I'm going to make it clear again for the record in terms of the GP K-9 unit. I know it's been reinstated. I kind of expected that. But to repeat what I said last year, I've been following the Terrell Bradley case from the very beginning, what's been going on. But despite that terrible incident where he was mauled, despite the situation where those officers were foolish, sending those pictures out, making those callous comments, joking about what happened in that case, despite all of that, despite the protests, and I respect the right, all that's well and good, but I'm going to repeat what I said last year. Things have not been completed or finalized in several categories. So despite all that, at this point, I am not in favor of the K-9 unit being disbanded. I said that last year, I'm going to say it again now. And I'm not saying it just because I'm a former officer. I'm saying it because of the fact that what happened was terrible. I'll go along with that. But the fact is, in my opinion, is that a K-9 unit, GPD, or any other unit, that they do serve in their own way good purposes, helping find lost or missing children, helping find murdered bodies. So that's some examples. But my point is this. Again, I think the vote last year was kind of a knee-jerk reaction based on all that was going on. And I understand that, but to try to have the unit disbanded just because of the fact that Terrell Bradley's lost his eye. Well, that's not the whole picture. The whole picture's not been painted yet. And because it happened, I'm not going to be in favor of the unit being disbanded. I'm going to continue to support Chief Scott, because I don't believe he's going to come here and tell things that are not truthful or dishonest. I'm gonna wait to see what comes out with the city commission. I'm gonna wait to see what comes out with the reports about the unit. But at this present time, I'm not going to support disbanding the unit, plain and simple. That's my comment.
Thank you. Other comments?
So, Chief Scott, I respect your story a lot. I came to your induction, but I don't think when people have questions, I don't feel I demonize GPD, and I know a lot of people I march with don't feel that way. I have a lot of respect for you, Chief Jones. Can never remember Inspector Koenig and Chief Inspector. You know, people are doing demonstrations. It's the same speech you gave at the K-9 City Commission meeting. People are demonstrating something happening across the country and to show support for what happened in that community. Also, you also brought up then and now, what are we doing in the community? All of us are doing stuff in the community too, and I don't think you know that. Like, it's socioeconomic. A lot of people on this board do a lot of stuff to try to uplift people in the community, so I just think to keep saying that. I don't believe that the police are keeping crime from happening, really, that's the primary thing they're investigating after it happens. I know you all do a lot of great stuff in the community, but a lot of other people are too. And I would ask you to advocate to the city commission when you speak that they quit voting down affordable and workforce housing. We have to boost people in this community, and I think that you, as a respected member, could help on those socioeconomic things also. Raise the wages of city employees, and they need to start building housing instead of keep voting it down, and I think that would help a lot in this community.
Other comments?
Okay, well, I thought the dog issue was going to wait till March, but I do want to say something on that, just in case I'm not on this committee by then. I don't know. I think that, I don't know, I wish that the immediate reaction when that event happened was, number one, to remove that dog from the force permanently. It was a dog that the officers themselves expressed fear of, and once it has tasted human blood, what is it going to act like in the future? So there's no going back on that. And the issue of dogs, period, there are other breeds that are less muscular and have better noses. The point of using dog for the police is to find people, to find lost people, to find remains, to find suspects. You don't need a dog who can destroy the person, you need one who can find it quick. So there are beagles, bassets, bloodhounds, labs. There are less muscular dogs with better noses. But the culture that was expressed in that unit, that is a malignancy. You can't tell a cancer doctor, cut out part of the tumor. The deck needs to be cleared in that unit. New personnel, different breed of animals. So if you don't disband it, make it functional without lethality from the animals. So that's.
Thank you. Other comments?
Wish I could talk like you.
I just wanted to add a comment. Is it Danielle Jensis?
Yes, sir.
You made a comment early that I sort of want to reiterate with the council. And part of our purpose is to really gain the understanding of the community, listen to the community. It's hard for the community to come to this room. And I vividly recollect our meetings in the different neighborhoods throughout Gainesville and on the slab and all sorts of places. And we heard an abundance of feedback. And at those meetings, we would have somebody from GRU and, the other agencies and so forth. And so if somebody talked about a sidewalk, it could be addressed. If somebody talked about a bus stop, it could be addressed. If somebody talked about more activity with police officers driving through their neighborhood, it could be addressed. And I missed that because it really brought the council close to understanding what the community was feeling. I'm going to work very, very hard to try to make this happen again. It may not be on a monthly basis, but we've got to get back and meet in the neighborhoods. It's really important. So we're going to get by this videotaping and so forth. We'll get through that. We'll make it work one way or another.
Deborah will figure it out.
That's my promise, is to get back to that, because I think that that's very, very
Does it have to be live? Because the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program, they have filmed all over the county, and they don't have any problems with their equipment.
I don't know. I'll find out. We'll find out. Because obviously taping is easy.
They
The
could
live
give
broadcast is.
Yeah, they could give you suggestions, the equipment they use.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Okay, thank you. If there's no objection, geez, it's 8 o'clock.
We'll adjourn.
We stand adjourned.
All right.
Move from consent. It seems like you get paid very well to be here, to listen. We've got we've got staff that's knowledgeable. You have a series of agreements that seem to be the same agreement with different people. I haven't had time to go through the backup. Why can you not do our business in public? Used to be that all these things, we'd get a brief presentation, even if it was nothing, information, to just have a concise agenda so you can leave. It doesn't make any sense. And with the issue, the county attorney's issue, I think that really needs to be brought into the public. You've been avoiding talking about animal control, animals, your lack of really fulfilling your role. So I would ask that you pull that from the agenda, and thank you for your time and your attention. But I do hope one of you will ask for it to be pulled. You're getting like the city.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Howard.
Sorry, ma'am, will you pull it down a little bit? There you go.
I'm Elizabeth Howard, and I'm here again to see that